Unlike animals, plants produce their own food using simple raw materials and sunlight. The green plants prepare their own food using sunlight and inorganic substances. This process is called as photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the primary method by which green plants produce food. It is the process where plants use carbon dioxide and water in the presence of sunlight to make glucose and release oxygen. Simply, photosynthesis is how plants convert light energy into chemical energy. The chemical equation of photosynthesis is here carbon dioxide and water are transformed into glucose, water and oxygen. Photosynthetic pigment, the chlorophyll. Plants need a special pigment called chlorophyll to absorb light energy. Chlorophyll gives plants their green color and play a crucial role in capturing sunlight. How does photosynthesis work? Photosynthesis has two main stages. First, light reaction, also called as Hill reaction, occurs in grana of thylakoids inside the chloroplast. It happens only in the presence of light. The key steps include absorption of light by chlorophyll, photolysis, splitting of water molecules into oxygen, protons and electrons, conversion of ADP and inorganic phosphate into ATP, the energy currency, release of oxygen as a byproduct. Second is dark reaction, also called as Calvin cycle. Does not require light directly, takes place in the stroma of the chloroplast, involves the conversion of carbon dioxide into carbohydrate like glucose. The first stable product formed here is a 3-carbon compound called phosphoglyceric acid (PGA), also known as C3 cycle, because the first stable product is made up of 3 carbon. Stomata. Stomata, the gatekeeper of photosynthesis. Stomata are tiny openings on the leaf surface that allow gas exchange. Their opening and closing depends on turgidity, the water pressure of guard cells. When the guard cells are turgid, full of water, the stomata open, allowing carbon dioxide in. When they lose water and becomes flaccid, stomata close to prevent water loss. The guard cells have a thick inner wall towards the pore and a thin outer wall. The movement of these walls control the stomatal aperture. Variations in photosynthesis. C4 cycle, H and slash cycle. C4 cycle, also called as H and slash cycle. Some plants use a modified photosynthesis pathway called the C4 cycle. Involves a 4-carbon compound called oxaloacetic acid, common in tropical and subtropical plants like maize, sorghum, wheat, oat, and millets. Also found in some dicots like as Amaranthus, Chenopodium, and Euphorbia. This pathway helps plants efficiently fix carbon dioxide in hot, dry environment. Crassulation, acid metabolism, CAM. Some plants, especially succulents like Bryophyllum, have another special adaptation called CAM photosynthesis. These plants fix carbon dioxide at night in the dark when their stomata are open, reducing the water loss. During the day, their stomata close to conserve water and photosynthesis. continue using the stored carbon dioxide. This adaptation allows plants to survive in extremely dry or acidic conditions. So plants have amazing way to make food and survive in different environments. Photosynthesis is not just essential for plants but for all life on earth because it produces oxygen and food. Respiration, the process that provides energy to all living organisms, including plants, animals, and humans. What is respiration? Respiration is a biochemical process where organic compounds like glucose are breakdown inside living cells with the help of enzymes. This breakdown releases energy stored in the form of ATP. ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which powers all the cellular activity. In simple terms, respiration is how living things release energy from their food. What is breathing? Breathing is a physical process of taking in oxygen and releasing carbon dioxide. It is important to know that breathing is different from respiration, but both are closely related. Respiration happens in different parts of plants. By young roots, air is present in the tiny space between soil particles. Root hairs and epiblema cells of young roots come into contact with their air and allow gases to diffuse in and out. Oxygen from the soil, air diffuse into the root cell, and carbon dioxide produced by root cells diffuse out by leaves and young stems. Leaves have a protective covering called the epidermis, which reduces water loss but contains tiny openings called stomata. Its stomata is bordered by two guard cells that control its opening and closing. When the stomata are open, gases like oxygen and carbon dioxide freely diffuse in and out according to concentration difference. You have studied about osmosis and diffusion. At night, when stomata remains open, oxygen enters and carbon dioxide exits as part of respiration. Mammalian respiratory system. The mammalian respiratory system is a series of organs that work together to bring oxygen into the body and remove carbon dioxide. It consists of nostril, external nares, nasal chamber divided by nasal septum, internal nares, the opening leading to pharynx. Pharynx passes for air and food. Laryngopharynx, lower part of pharynx with a slit called glottis. Epiglottis, a leaf-like cartilage that close the glottis during swallowing. Larynx, also called as voice box or Adam's apple. Vocal cords, two parts. The vocal cords, two pairs, outer false and inner true. Air passing through vibrates true cords to produce sound. Trachea, windpipe, long tube supported by cartilage. Primary bronchus, the bronchus of trachea that enter the lungs. Bronchioles and alveoli, tiny air sac where gas exchange happen. Lungs, two spongy organs in the chest covered by pleural membrane. Mechanism of breathing. Breathing has two phases controlled by the respiratory center, the medulla oblongata. First, inspiration or inhalation. The diaphragm and intercostal muscles contract. This increases the volume of thoracic cavity. As volume increases, air pressure inside the lung drops, so air rushes in from outside. Second, expiration or exhalation. The diaphragm and intercostal muscles relax. The thoracic cavity volume decreases, increasing pressure inside the lungs. This forces air out of the lungs. Gases exchange happens in the alveoli of the lungs. Oxygen moves from the alveoli, where it is at high pressure, into the blood, where it is at low pressure. Carbon dioxide moves from the blood, high pressure, into the alveoli to be exhaled. Gases transport in blood. Oxygen is carried by hemoglobin inside red blood cells. About 100 ml of blood can carry up to 20 ml of oxygen. Carbon dioxide is transported mostly as bicarbonate dissolved in plasma.